Back up down and rock against your American government. Back up down, please.
Okay, today we're going to do a job that anybody with an old truck should need to do. And it's cab corners. We got a rot out on the bottom here. Not as bad as some of you guys. I got some cab corners that have been sitting around for a bit. Don't know where they're from, but they came with the truck and they should be good enough. I've marked a line here. So what I did was I just stuck this kind of over it. I'm going to be coming up quite a bit further than this. I can feel that the bottom is probably half an inch or so, that it's going to have to come further up. You can see the line here is probably an inch from there, 3/4. And so I just hugged it on there, made a line. We'll end up around here. So I'm just going to kind of cut a preliminary just to get the piece off so we can start cleaning up underneath here. There's always possible surprises under here because if it rotted out through here, you know, there's a good chance it rotted out somewhere else. But I'm just going to go ahead and take off my cutoff wheel. I'm going to cut this, cut around here, and get the skin off. I'm not going to worry about my spot welds right now. We'll be taking the spot welds off later. Same on the edge there. But it's a lot easier to deal with them when you have the edge cut off. You can see inside there, you can peel it back, you can work the metal back and forth to pop the spot welds. You're going to be grinding off these spot welds off the top. You're not going to be drilling these spot welds because you're going to want to drill your spot welds from the outside on your new piece. You're going to drill your new piece, you're going to spot weld from the outside. So you want that inner piece to be in good shape, so you're not going to drill through it. You're going to be grinding through these with a grinder. You'll grind off the top of the spot weld down to the next layer of metal and then pop it off. On these spot welds, you can see there, that's how far I'm grinding. I'm taking the little cutoff wheel, grinding back and forth, and just kind of running it back and forth, and then I'm popping this off, and it's a lot easier because I'm just got to pop this little guy off. This is our little door jamb. Cleaned up the insides of both these pieces and painted them. Put this on there and I was able to get our line drawn on here. Fitting together pretty well. We'll pitch these together with a pair of vice grips. Getting into this upper structure piece that kind of goes behind the seat. There's a support piece for the fuel tank, but there's two spot welds here. And what's nice about having that piece is a little bit of backing there. It'll make that weld a little easier. Out on here, I'm just going to butt weld it. Some people might lap this or lap this piece, but I just think of it a way that catches rust and rusts it back out. So I like to butt weld my panels if it's an actual seam. Spot weld it just like factory where we can, around the bottom, around the back here. So our biggest concern on this is our door gap. Do not ever try to put rockers on, cab corners on. Do not put it on without all your panels fit. We already have this door gapped out exactly how I want it. And so this has to go in to where we get a good gap. Right now it's not great. What it's showing is this needs to come in a little further here, and we might even have to cut off a little bit of this rocker to get it to do that. There was an underlap piece on this to go behind the rocker, but it was made for this piece to go on first, then this piece, so I had to cut that off, which isn't a big deal. Can't say this enough. I've seen people do it. You cannot put on a cab corner, you cannot put on a rocker, you cannot do a fender lower patch panel, you cannot do a quarter panel without your doors, deck lids, hoods, whatever. It all has to be there. After a little bit of fighting, we're looking pretty good. Could tighten up a bit more, but you can kind of see that we're pressing in pretty close here. I could shave this little guy, which I might. But also, I noticed the corner of our door is a little bent in, so that's kind of giving us a little bit of a false reading, but pretty good. I think it would be all right. It's always a question of, you know, like if I left this like this and started going across this, would it close this up a little bit or would it open it? Do I want to start getting this welded in here without getting it the other side lined up? I think I'm going to try to pull this out and close this up a little bit more. I think I'm going to cut this little corner off the rocker. I might end up just welding that seam in. I don't know. I kind of like factory seams, but that one isn't too critical. But I think I will. I think I'll take the whole panel and kind of pull it in a little bit, weld it here, weld it down here, and then take it back and start curving it around. So I made a little cut on this rocker and it relieved and just went right in. So nice gap. Always love a good gap. Kind of moving this around as I go, tweaking it in and out to line up this and kind of set those pieces so it can line up to our seam here, but also roll nicely with this outside. Kind of have to work it as you go. It's not going to line up. So if you're expecting it to line up, I'm sorry, it ain't going to happen. You can see right here, I'm taking this piece above this just to kind of level this out a little better because it's wanting to dip behind. And you got a nice lineup. Tack it, you know. Pretty happy with that. So it's the same one tack at a time. Just slow, let it cool, one tack at a time. You know, tack, 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 tack. And then let it cool. Do it again. With the grinding, you're gonna grind it down a little bit, let it cool. Grind a little bit, let it cool. Not going to try to grind it all at once. Welding too quickly, grinding too quickly is going to warp the piece. So there's our cab corner. I have this little rust hole we're going to cut out right now and replace. I know it's tempting to weld that little corner, but there's no real good way to clean it or grind it out. Even these spot welds, I had to use my little wallering tool just to grind down the welds here. So this is best suited for just a seam sealer like the factory would have done. I'm going to bend a little piece for this, a little patch, and we'll get that welded in. On this cab, it's nice that the front hinge mounts, floor, everything was in pretty good shape. This part has a few dents, I'm sure this does. I think there was a spotlight or CB whip in the middle of the roof, and that's going to be a pain in the ass, but we'll get it. But happy with this. I think it turned out good.
Black and dead, black and blue. The black and down and rocket into American government. Black and blue, black and blue, black and blue.